There's a scene in the 7th season of SpongeBob SquarePants that most people remember as the show's worst moment. Plankton, one-eyed and 1 inch tall, is lying face down in the middle of a Bikini Bottom street. He's talking to himself. He has not slept in 16 days. He has been tormented every day and every night by what he believes is Pearl the whale threatening to eat him alive, because his ancestors were eaten by whales, and this is his oldest fear. He wants it to end. He is begging the local street cleaner, out loud, in dialogue Nickelodeon approved and aired, to just run him over and end it. The episode is called One Course Meal. Mr. Krabs is watching from the window of the Krusty Krab. Krabs discovered Plankton's xenophobia, dressed up as his own daughter to weaponize it, and spent over 2 weeks systematically driving his childhood friend towards suicide, just to protect a Krabby Patty formula that was never his to begin with. And when SpongeBob points out how far it's gone, Krabs' response, on screen, in canon, is to laugh and say, "Really? He's a mess." Watch that scene again. Because what most fans took as the show hitting its lowest creative point was actually the show finally telling on itself. Krabs is not the successful entrepreneur of Bikini Bottom. Krabs is the villain of this story. He has been the villain the whole time. And Plankton, the tiny green failure everyone was trained to laugh at, has been telling the town this since the day the formula got stolen. SpongeBob SquarePants is a cultural monument. That is not in dispute. Steven Hillenburg built one of the most beloved animated shows in television history. It has run for a quarter century. It has crossed generations. It has produced feature films, Broadway musicals, an actual meme economy of its own. Nickelodeon exists in its current form largely because of what SpongeBob built for it. Hillenburg's original vision was singular, and the early seasons remain some of the best-written animation of the last 30 years. None of that is being questioned here. But underneath the joy and the jellyfishing and the pineapple under the sea, the show was quietly running a labor rights case against one of its own main characters. And the fandom, for 25 years, was trained to laugh at the plaintiff. The terrifying thing isn't that Plankton was right about Mr. Krabs. The terrifying thing is that the show co-signed Plankton's diagnosis, episode after episode, and the audience kept cheering for the boss anyway. Here is what Plankton was diagnosing, in the space between the mad science and the failed heists. Eugene H. Krabs is a monopolist who built his empire on a stolen formula, underpays his workers, hoards his wealth, and has repeatedly demonstrated a willingness to endanger and destroy human life for money. That is not fan interpretation. That is what the show has aired, in canonical episodes, across 12+ seasons. Plankton has been the only person in Bikini Bottom saying it out loud for the entire run. He's been dismissed because he's small and because he wanted to steal the formula rather than reform the system. But the diagnosis is airtight. And over the next few minutes, you're going to see what Krabs actually is, what Plankton actually saw, and how the show trained a generation of viewers to root for the boss against the labor, because the boss wore the apron. To understand what Plankton is, you have to go back to Friend or Foe, Season 5, Episode 1. The show finally tells you where the chum bucket came from. Krabs and Plankton were childhood best friends, both outcasts. Plankton was the nerd. Krabs was so poor his mother made his clothes out of old rags, and the bullies at school called him Rag Boy. These two boys had nobody else. Krabs found his first penny at the carnival, and it changed his life. And then, together, as a team, they decided to open their own restaurant because the local burger place refused to serve them. They developed a recipe together. It was called the Plab Patty. Plab for Plankton and Krab. Their first customer, Old Man Jenkins, ate it and immediately collapsed from the terrible taste. Krabs and Plankton turned on each other. A door slammed, a shelf collapsed, and random ingredients spilled into the batter. That accident produced what would later become the Krabby Patty formula. Plankton tore the recipe in anger, walked away with the top half of the page, and found himself left with a single useless instruction and a pinch of chum. That's it. That's the origin of the chum bucket. Plankton didn't lose the formula in a fair fight. He lost it in an accident that Krabs got lucky in, walked out of, and monetized for the rest of his life. Every scheme Plankton has ever pulled since is a man trying to get back what he built with a childhood best friend who took it, opened a restaurant across the street, and never once acknowledged the theft. And here is what the show does with that origin, which almost nobody talks about. Friend or Foe tells the story 3 times. Krabs tells his version, he's the hero. Then Plankton tells his version, he's the victim. Then Karen, Plankton's computer wife, who was a security camera at the time, plays back the actual footage. And the actual footage confirms that both of them were fighting over the recipe when the accident happened, that Krabs got lucky, and that he walked out with something he had built with his best friend, and then treated as his personal inheritance for the rest of his life. The show wrote a full Rashomon episode to reveal that Krabs' version of his own origin is a lie he has been telling himself for decades. His entire business empire is founded on a story about a fair fight he won. The security footage debunks it on screen. Every episode of SpongeBob that airs after Friend or Foe is Krabs continuing to sell a lie the show already caught him telling. And nobody in Bikini Bottom ever plays the footage back. Compare Krabs to Plankton across 25 years. Krabs owns the Krusty Krab, a franchise-level operation with generational wealth, a daughter, a mansion, and a bathtub full of money he sleeps in. Plankton runs one failing restaurant in a lab, has a wife who openly mocks him, and lives across the street from the monopoly that got built on his stolen labor. The show frames Krabs as the successful entrepreneur and Plankton as the pathetic loser. But look at their actual behavior over the same time period. Krabs has canonically underpaid SpongeBob for the entire run of the show, kept him working for pennies while extracting decades of unpaid overtime. Krabs has canonically endangered the physical safety of his employees on multiple occasions for profit. Krabs has canonically driven his childhood best friend to the edge of suicide over a formula he acquired through an accident. Plankton, meanwhile, has spent 25 years trying to break a monopoly that was built on theft. His methods are absurd mind control rays, giant robots, disguises, shrink beams, but his goal, at bottom, is competition. He wants a market. He wants a customer. He wants what the childhood friend who left the room with the recipe took from him. The show turned that grievance into comedy because the alternative was writing a workplace drama about monopoly and worker exploitation. Nickelodeon was not going to air that, so they made Plankton green and 1 inch tall and gave Krabs a laugh track. Watch One Course Meal. The show explicitly, on camera, has Mr. Krabs psychologically torture his rival to the point of suicidal ideation and face zero consequences. SpongeBob, the moral center of the show, tries to intervene and gets ignored. Krabs erases a drawing of Plankton like a man crossing a name off a hit list. That is not the writing of a heroic capitalist. That is the writing of a sociopath the network refused to hold accountable. Watch Squid on strike. Krabs docks his employees' wages down to nothing, invents charges to charge them for existing, and drives Squidward and SpongeBob to organize a strike, which Krabs then manipulates into destroying the restaurant. Watch Nasty Patty. Krabs and SpongeBob accidentally serve a bad patty to a health inspector, think they've killed him, and instead of calling anyone, spend the entire episode trying to bury the body to avoid a bad health inspection score. Read that back. Mr. Krabs' first instinct upon believing he has killed a customer is not remorse, it is concealment. Watch the numerous episodes across the series where Krabs endangers SpongeBob, Squidward, or entire crowds of customers for the sake of a few extra dollars. Watch him charge for napkins. Watch him charge for ketchup. Watch him serve expired food. Watch him do this, over and over, for 2.5 decades. While the show frames him as the lovable curmudgeon and Plankton as the villain, the pattern is not subtle. The pattern is the show. And then there is the through line of the entire series. The labor case the show hides in plain sight. SpongeBob has worked at the Krusty Krab for the entire run of the show. 25 years of continuous employment. He has been paid pennies, worked unpaid overtime willingly and unwillingly, been sent into physical danger for the sake of cost savings, and never once been offered a real promotion or a share of the monopoly he keeps profitable through his labor. Squidward has been trapped in the same job for the same period. Neither of them owns anything. Krabs owns everything. That is the exact structure Plankton has been diagnosing since the pilot. A monopoly built on a stolen formula, staffed by workers whose loyalty has been trained by decades of exposure to a boss who charges them for napkins. Every episode where Plankton fails to steal the formula is another episode where Krabs' fast food monopoly continues, the workers continue to not own the thing they make, and Krabs continues to sleep in the bathtub full of money he did not earn. That is not the setup of a comedy. That is the setup of a story about capital. Nickelodeon just refused to let it be one. Let's talk about how the world received Plankton. The dominant fandom read, the one that stuck for 2 decades, is that Plankton is the villain. The tiny green mad scientist. The failure. The guy who wants to steal the Krabby Patty formula for reasons that were never really examined because the show refused to examine them. That framing does exactly what Nickelodeon needs it to do. It keeps Plankton at the level of aesthetic, of vibe, of 1 inch supervillain meme. It never lets the conversation get to what Plankton was actually right about, which is that a huge chunk of Bikini Bottom's economy is built on a monopoly that was built on an accident, that was walked out of by a man who used to be his best friend. Nobody wants to sit with that reading. Because sitting with it would require admitting that the show has been running a labor drama for 25 years with the boss cast as the protagonist and the union organizer cast as a joke. And the moment you accept that, SpongeBob SquarePants stops being a comedy about a happy fry cook and starts being the story of a monopolist protecting a stolen recipe by any means necessary, while the town cheers him on because the alternative would require them to reckon with who they've been rooting for. That's not a conversation the SpongeBob fandom is set up to have. So, the fandom keeps calling Plankton pathetic and moves on. Strip everything away. Strip the pineapple. Strip the jellyfishing. Strip the singing and the friendship episodes and the cultural affection. Just take what Plankton was actually arguing. Krabs stole a formula from a joint invention. Krabs built a monopoly on that stolen formula. Krabs used that monopoly to underpay his workers, endanger his customers, and torture his rival to the point of self-harm. Plankton spent 25 years trying to break the monopoly by any means available to a man who had been locked out of the market. That's not villainy. That's competition policy. That's antitrust. That's a small business owner refusing to accept that the guy who took the recipe gets to run the town forever. And the show, in canon, in episode after episode, kept proving him right. The Krabs of the early seasons could be read as a lovable miser. The Krabs of the middle and late seasons is a documented sociopath who has done, on screen, every single thing Plankton had been accusing him of doing since the pilot. The character didn't change. The show just stopped hiding what he was. Plankton was right that Krabs was a greed-driven exploiter. Plankton was right about the theft of the formula. Plankton was right about the monopoly. Plankton was right that the town was rigged in favor of the boss and against every worker and every competitor and every friend Krabs had ever betrayed. He wasn't right about the solution. Mind control rays and shrink beams and giant robot disguises are not how you break up a monopoly. They are how you get labeled a supervillain for life by a media apparatus that has been paid to protect the monopolist. But the diagnosis was airtight from the pilot, and the show canonized every piece of it, on screen, in episodes the fandom watched and laughed at and moved past. The green 1-inch failure across the street was the only person in Bikini Bottom telling the truth about how the town got built. The town rewarded him for it by treating him as a joke for a quarter century. If you think Plankton was just a villain, name one thing Mr. Krabs has done in 25 years for a reason other than money. Name one worker he's paid fairly. Name one customer he's protected. Name one grievance of Plankton's the show has actually adjudicated. Name one moment where his cruelty had a consequence. Name one. I'll wait.